subsidize our own. So we can expect an increase in the rice prices. We can expect a decrease in our local supply of rice. So what's that formula again? The lesser the supply, the more is the demand. The more demand there is, the higher the price. So combine all that with the other forces that affect or factors that affect the supply chain. You can imagine, you can project how much percent increases in prices you may expect, and how this is going to affect the profitability of your own companies. Then you have the demands for wages and the demand for energy that will persist in local situations. Therefore, local politics will have to intervene in favor of labor, because that is politics. It spells their own, the public officials' own re-election. They again be debating in Congress, and conduct public hearings, not in aid of legislation, but in aid of re-election. That's what they'll do. The total negative effects of the 2008 world recession will be felt by all. As of today, they're already talking about the negative results impending on the European Union. Simply because after the Greek tragedy, economic tragedy, you are going to have about a similar case in Spain, in Portugal. So, we can expect some more negative backlashes on that one. Then again, although the world's economies, major economies, are thinking they should keep their interest rates low, down to even less than 1%, to be able to prime the economic pump and encourage spending, to get employment up. We are not going to enjoy that in the Philippines. I'll tell you later why. In the list of recommendations we have for what the government should do. There is going to be an increase in the use of modern equipment in search for oil, like sonar. And if you noticed 2 weeks ago, there have been reports of dolphins and whales dying in the coast, along the coast of Peru. And the prime suspect, are the sonar equipment of the oil explorers offshore. Because the sonar equipment does give the mammals, the warm-blooded mammals of the oceans, the same effect as you would have on a diver, on a human diver, scuba diver, going down to 100 to 120 feet and going up, shooting up on the surface immediately. They have the bends. The bends, in simple language, is the increase of nitrogen in your blood, and it kills you. It attacks the nervous system. You will have, we do believe that you will have the unpredictable earthquakes and volcanic eruptions in the Pacific Ring of Fire in the next 20 years. Why? Because it takes that long before these undersea volcanoes erupt. Did anybody ever bother when in 1991 Mount Pinatubo erupted? Nobody, because everybody forgot that it did erupt 700 years ago. And because of that eruption, you had the best aggregates for construction in the Pampanga River, in the Pasig Potrero River, at behind the Clarkfield area. These are the things, or in Zambales. These are the things that we must be very, very watchful about. Basic food prices and supplies will definitely go up. Prices of supplies will go up. Business organizations with real and sincere corporate social responsibility will take in diminished profits, yes, and be more innovative to retain their market shares. So the competition for more creative business practices is going to set in. You can be sure of that. Because the main, as we all know, the main function of management is to safeguard the benefits of the shareholder, of the investor. Our banking institutions will stick to their conservative nature, their pawn shop mentality. They'll shy away from risk venture capitalism. The private-public partnership projects like infrastructure will take off slowly, but foreign investors are still going to watch and see what the posture of the government is going to be. The conclusion of the Corona affair in the Senate impeachment trial is a plus. Is a plus for foreign investors to come in. I know, for example, of 3 Australian cattle breeders who want to come in here. And yesterday, they called and they said, now they're ready to come in. You know what that means? That's going to increase our product supplies for domestic consumption. The political leadership has not fully appreciated the fact that our marine resources have multiplied 6 times. Like I said earlier, with the expansion of the 200-mile limit for special economic zones. What that means is we can produce, if we have the sources of energy, alternative sources of energy, we can produce manufactured food for China. The Chinese will eat everything that moves anyway, So we can put them in cans and process them, put them in cans and sell them. Not to mention the fact that this is going to solve part of the food security problem that we will have for our 100 million Filipinos. Our political practices will still remain personal and transactional, and the change in the mindset is going to be very slow. Our political parties will still not have the ideologies as the foundations of their parties, and therefore will still be lacking in principles. We still don't have a national vision, mission. We still don't have strong manufacturing sector, really. We have an import substitute industry. We have assembly plants. We don't have manufacturing plants. We're not strictly implementing fiscal management in government. In the private industry, that's not a problem, but in government it is. That's why we are, except during the Ramos administration, when we got away from the IMF hold, 1992 to 1998, we have always been a deficit budget country. We don't have the renewable and sustainable energy production, although we constantly seek it. We don't have the equitable distribution of wealth and socio-economic equity. And we don't have a systematic monitoring of economic programs based on a common master plan, because we don't have a master plan. See, the problem with master plans is it must be supported by the masses. With all that, you can still expect in the provinces the 5-6 operators thriving. And I think that's going to be affecting your supply chain business as well. Now, to cut it short, I'll go to the recommendations. These are the drastic recommendations that are needed so that the economy, the business, the supply chain is going to benefit just like the other business sectors. We must enforce the reforestation or greening of the environment. And it must sit down to the 42,000 barangays. That is a very huge, a very Herculean task. It's not going to happen overnight. Your total information dissemination program, at best, could be effective only after 7 years of yearly strict implementation supported by a good logistical or money supply. We must strictly enforce the designated uses of land and ocean resources. We don't have a land use policy up to now. That is why also the Department of Agrarian Reform is a huge failure. And I always said in my stories before, the AR program is the most successful failure we have. There's going to be drastically an increase in the Philippine workers' productivity. There must be a drastic increase in the Philippine workers' productivity with education curricula relevant to industry needs. The government must invest in renewable energy and infrastructure. The government must create the investment climate for foreign and local investors, especially in agriculture and marine-based food manufacturing companies. The government must implement a strong fiscal management. The government must enforce strictly a national waste management program, like what the earlier speaker said. We must enforce the resource uses of the 240 river systems, just so we can have continuous fresh water for human consumption. We must go into private-public partnership in telecommunications projects with strong information networks to link the farm and the industrial manufacturers to suppliers, industrial suppliers to manufacturers, financial resources, and the markets. We must have a stable commodity pricing. Private business sectors must either cooperate closely with the government in the enforcement of the law and hopefully eliminate business corruption, or they initiate on their own modern technologies so that we can have cost-effective systems of manufacturing. The private enterprises must lead the need to process strategic information and data. Private enterprise must balance the ethical and moral practices with the legal processes or business, because what is necessarily legal may not be moral, and vice versa. Because there are many factors that affect our future, it must be presumed that all sectors of our society must never let go our critical thinking, independent analysis, and networking. Don't ever let your management sense off guard, even 1 second of the day. Think and believe you can influence your own future by acting now and adapting the revisions on your plans to keep in cadence with time. The sense for positive and changes for better quality of life is an internal struggle, and it's not the duty of one man alone or one industry alone. It is ours. Everybody. We must stop private